Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to share with you what our curriculum picks are for the 2020-2021 school year. It feels really weird to say because this one's not quite over yet. However, I am going to start sharing our picks with you now. So I was going to wait until around June to start releasing videos, but then I realized that a lot of people are starting to really try to buckle down and choose their curriculum before that point in time. A lot of people are choosing it now. So I wanted to take some time and kind of go through and show you some of the things that I have picked for our homeschool for this upcoming year. So I split up our subjects by individual subjects and then by family subjects. And I started doing this, I guess it was this year, officially full on starting to do that, just to kind of simplify things because I gave birth to our 6th child in May, and my oldest is only 9. So I needed to get things simplified and streamlined in our homeschool. If you hear sounds, it's my baby behind me right now. Anyway, I needed to simplify and streamline things just to kind of help my sanity, but also really to help our homeschool. So that's what I'm going to take time to show you now is some of our family subjects. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about the history that I've chosen. And so there's going to be a part 1 family subject video and a part 2 family subject video. So in this video today, I'm going to be talking about what we're using for history and talking about what we're using for art. I really wanted to concentrate on U.S. history for this next school year. So a couple of years ago, I actually taught a U.S. history class to middle schoolers at our co-op, and I used Knotgrass, America the Beautiful. I don't necessarily have an issue with that curriculum. There were just a few things I didn't really care for. And so when I was searching, I actually landed on the one that Master Books put out, America's Story. So we are actually starting with America's Story 1. So my children are going to be in 5th grade, 3rd grade, 1st grade, and kindergarten. And then I'll have one that I'm going to be doing some kind of like pre-K-ish kind of stuff with because she really wants to, even though she'll be just 3. And then, of course, my 1-year-old. So I wanted to find something that had good bones to it, but that I could expound on. So we are a family that loves literature. And so I wanted to be able to add in some literature just to kind of beef things up. We don't do, once my children learn to read, we don't really do an actual set reading program because we just do that through the read alouds and literature that we read. So I landed on America's Story 1. I think it goes through the year 1850. I'll show you a little bit of the inside here in just a second, but it comes with the student book, which is like a textbook. And then it comes with a teacher guide. It's basically correlating worksheets that go with it in the teacher guide. So I will get to that a little more in just a second, but I was going to tell you a little bit about why I chose it. I chose it because I liked what I saw as far as it has really good bones and it would give me the autonomy to be able to add in things without overwhelming us with what is already here. So that is really why I chose this curriculum. It is pretty thorough from what I've seen, and I'm really excited about it. It says it is 3rd through 6th grade. However, if you have watched any of the videos that Master Books puts out, I watched one where they were saying when they develop each curriculum that they put out, large families are kind of in mind. Multiple ages and grade levels are in mind, and they make it so that it's easy to adapt in age and grade. So I have found that to be true in looking through this. I think that it will work well for all of my kids. Of course, my kindergartner is not going to be able to do these worksheets that require to write several sentences or things like that. However, I can adapt it to her to be able to sit in on the lesson and things like that and come up with just a basic alternative assignment. So another thing that I'm planning to do is if you watched last year's curriculum picks video, Our history that I chose was actually Story of the World. We love Story of the World. It's another one that I feel like is really easy to add to and expound on, and has great elements to it. And I love the activities are very fun as well. And so I don't want to completely leave that behind because I do really enjoy it, and so do my kids. So we are actually going to get volume 3 of Story of the World. I have a friend who has it used that's going to give it to me for really cheap. So bonus points there. As we learn about different things in history in here, then we will be reading along some in Story of the World. Maybe not all of Story of the World. I do want them to have that connection of this is what's happening in the U.S. and this is what's happening somewhere else in the world at the same time period. I think that that's a very valuable thing to do. I love the visual of timelines. My kids do really well when they see that visual as well. So that's what we are planning to do as far as the actual curriculum part of it. So what I've done is I've taken that and I have gone through and I've added and ordered some read alouds. We do have a lot more reference type read aloud materials that I'll be adding in as well. However, I didn't want to pull every single one of those out because this whole table would pretty much be full. So my plan is that next year I want to be really intentional about filming what our morning basket is every month. So if you are not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Because that is my plan for this upcoming school year, is to make sure I put that out. So anyway, so I'm going to show you some of the read alouds I've chosen. I'm going to start with kind of the more picture book ones. These are in no order. But the first one is just an illustrated version of Paul Revere's Ride, which is the poem by Longfellow. And so I just really liked the pictures in here. I think it would be really fun to have the kids memorize at least part of the poem. And so that is the first one that I chose. And some of these, I forgot to mention also, I'm going to be teaching this class actually at our co-op this year. So I can use some of these picture book top books with it as well. The next one I thought looked so fun. It is called George versus George, the American Revolution as seen from both sides. So this is really neat. It is put out by National Geographic, and basically it just goes through and it gives a comparison of what each George Washington and King George, what it goes through their perspective and what they experienced at different points during the Revolution. So this is a really fun looking book, and I can't wait to dive into that with the kids. So the next book I got is actually by National Geographic also. It has similar illustrations, and it is How We Crossed the West, The Adventures of Lewis and Clark. And so here are just some of what the pictures and the information looks like. So I think this one will be a fun one as well. And then I also got this, Phoebe the Spy, a kind of historical fiction book about an unproven legend about Phoebe. So it is a kind of a legend that has gone around about what could have possibly happened in the Revolution. So I thought that that would be a really fun one to read as well. The next one is actually a book that I already had, but we have never used. So Let Freedom Ring. It is all kinds of different speeches throughout history. It's songs, literary excerpts, poetry, letters, historical documents. It even has recipes. So I thought that this would be really fun to pull in as well. Let's see. So there's a letter between George Washington and his wife, which I thought was really neat. And again, there's Paul Revere's Ride poem. The Gettysburg Address, there's just all kinds of different historical documents and things like that in here. So I thought that would be a good one to add in as well. Okay, as far as read alouds. So some of these, my oldest son will be reading independently, and maybe I should pull those out. So the ones that my oldest will be reading exclusively independently, like that means these he will be reading as well, but then we will also be reading as a family. But these he will be reading completely independently, and I will probably just have discussions with him on these. The first one is the Lewis and Clark Expedition. It is a chapter book, however, it does have a few pictures here and there in it. So I know that in 5th grade, sometimes that can be something that it just kind of helps keep you going and interested. So that is one of his. And then this one looks so much fun. They actually have one about King George. It's called King George, What Was His Problem? And it's all about the American Revolution. So I may end up ordering that one as well, depending on how much he likes this. So this one is Which Way to the Wild West? Everything Your School Books Didn't Tell You About America's Westward Expansion. So this one just looks so much fun. So according to the reviews, it has some really funny things in it. And it's just kind of, I think it's just supposed to be kind of random facts that happened during the westward expansion. So I will probably read this ahead of him and before him just to make sure, but also so that we can have that discussion and everything while he reads it. So that is another one that I grabbed for him. So the rest of these, the way that I'm going to approach this with my oldest is that he will read a day ahead of us in all of these. So the first one is The Sign of the Beaver. So he will read chapter 1 the day before our family starts it. So when I read it to our family as a family read aloud, he will have already read that first chapter. I just want to make sure that he's solid for discussion and understanding and things like that. But I want him to be able to read it before we do. So it'll kind of be like review for him. And he'll be able to really help me lead the discussions, which he really enjoys doing. So The Sign of the Beaver is the first one. And again, these are in no particular order. The next one is A Lion to Guard Us. And he saw this and read the back description and was really excited about that one. I just thought this one looked fun. I have no personal experience with this book whatsoever, but it is a book, Mr. Revere and I, and it is basically the story and account of the ride of Paul Revere written from his horse's perspective. So I thought that sounded really fun. It's written by the same author as Rabbit Hill and Mr. Popper's Penguins. So anyway, so we're going to do that one as well. The next one is The Secret Valley. And this is about the California Gold Rush as well. The Cabin Faced West. And I will have all these linked down below for you if you are curious about any of them. Tolliver's Secret. He's really excited about this book as well. And then Pedro's Journal. So that is what we are adding to our U.S. history curriculum. Just to kind of beef things up a little bit. I love adding literature to anything, but especially to history. And so, yeah, it just makes it more fun. And it's really fun, too. It creates a neat discussion when you read something that is based off of something, but it's historical fiction. My kids really enjoy that, just kind of comparing what is fact and what is fiction, or, you know, getting a better idea of someone's personal account of what it would have been like to grow up during that time. Because it's one thing to learn about the history of it, but another thing to hear a story written in a way that immerses you during that time period. So that's why I really wanted to do that. So I'm not going to show you the whole thing. If you are interested in a flip through, I will do the whole thing. But if you are familiar with master books at all, it is set up in the same way on the inside. I do like how they have everything laid out by week, what pages you should read, what activities you should do, whether or not it's in the teacher guide or the student book. So there are some neat activities in here. It's not just like writing paragraphs and filling in the blanks and stuff like that. There's even sketching a Viking ship. There is finding different things on a map. There is, so looking at the voyages of Columbus and other explorers. There is a timeline section. There are art activities, which I love. My kids would be so bored if it was just fill in the blank. I would be too, though. So then it wants you to write a friendly letter. And then there is designing a book cover about Frederick Douglass. So there's all different kinds of activities. Like I said, it's not just a fill in the blank, but there is that. There's another artist study right there. So I just really like all the different ways that they have the assignments and stuff in here. And then the text looks really great. The illustrations are very clear. It looks like there's good information. So it is written kind of more in a story form, not so much just a facts-based history program. And it is a Christian curriculum. So if you don't know that about master books, it is. Anyway, so if you want to see more of this, if you want me to do a flip through, I can. There are 3 levels to this curriculum. And so, yeah, so that is America's Story 1, which is my pick for our family history this year. So the next one, I'm going to introduce it, and then I'm going to turn my camera around just to show you what some of the inside of this looks like for art. So this year, I really wanted to choose an actual art curriculum, but again, I wanted it to be something that we didn't have to commit to super, super heavy. We could do it maybe 1 to 2 times a week. And I also wanted them to get a very good, solid understanding of the actual elements of art. So I didn't want them just to do art projects. I wanted them to actually be taught the elements of art, how to actually implement them, and some of the artists that kind of go along with each element. So I actually found this on Masterbook's website, but it is called Living Art Lessons, the 7 Elements. So I'm really excited about this. It will go over all 7 elements: line, shape, color, value, texture, form, and space. And let me turn the camera around and show you the inside. Okay, so this is your table of contents. This shows you the order that each thing goes in. And again, if you want to see a full flip through of this, I can. So it has all the supplies that you're going to need for your basic art kit. And just as an example, so the first thing that you go over is learning, observing different lines. So it talks about the different types of basic straight lines, basic curvy lines. It has questions that you can prompt to ask them. Now this curriculum does provide also an art journal. So you'll see a prompt for your artist journal with a page number. We are not using the art journals. The reason I chose against that is because for our family, if I bought art journals for everyone, that would be really expensive. The other thing is I really just want them to be able to completely create their art based on what we're learning. So we will be getting some spiral mixed media artist pads to be using for each one of our children. I can usually find a good sale on those at Hobby Lobby, so I will be getting those. So then it talks about more types of lines, and then it gives you some actual pictures to kind of investigate and see. And then it talks about your artist that goes with the element that you're learning. So here we have Picasso. It goes over his different periods. And then it has an actual create your own Picasso pet. So my kids are going to love this. And it goes step by step through each thing. So see, you don't necessarily need the artist journal. So then you're talking about lines in nature and observing that. Line scavenger hunts. And then you're going to do another art project about jellyfish lines, which looks super fun, and I think my kids will love. Then there's also yarn line foil design. That looks really fun. They're going to love that. So just a few more. I'm going to kind of flip through this a lot more just so you can get an idea. So about value, creating texture, again with the different artists. Observing form, and learning about shading and using Michelangelo as an example. And it even gives you a recipe for making your own self-hardening clay. And observing space. So I am super, super excited about this curriculum. And again, I will link this down below as well, just so you can have a quick link to click there. I hope that this was helpful for you. We are already super excited about next year. It's going to be really hard to hold off for when we have to start this, because we actually have to hold off until our co-op starts back, because I'm teaching it at co-op and I don't want to get far ahead of the class that I'm teaching, because my kids are actually going to be in my class at co-op. So we are super excited about this. Like I said, I hope that it was helpful. I would love if you would hit that subscribe button and join me on future videos. Thanks so much, guys.